Hi, big besties. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. If you guys are seeing my face for the first time, hi. My name is Maya, and I like to talk about books here on the internet. First things first, let me show you guys what we're repping for Booktober. It's an entire vibe, and I am loving it. We are here to discuss my September TBR, and yes, we are using the exact same software that we used for the final FMC game because I have been using this phone. Those were napkins, in case you saw that. Religiously. I mean, I do so anyway, but even more so now because I am not only doing daily short form uploads for not only this channel. Well, I don't do daily. I do daily on the days that are not video days, but I am doing like daily short form on two other different platforms. So like my TikTok and my Lemon 8 account. And I am going to try and be better at cross posting to Instagram. I just don't think of that right away. Like, I don't know. Instagram is like its own thing. All of that to say, I have been using this phone quite a bit. And even with the new amount of storage that I got, I am also vlogging again for my main channel. So that is fun. And I am excited and I am motivated and all of the things. So my phone is used up quite a lot, and I just didn't want it to run out of power and or storage space because that is very frustrating. Anyone who is a creator, y'all know it is frustrating if we lose all of the footage. So I have decided to do it this route, and I hope you guys do not mind. This will also be the format for the next video as well because we're going to be doing another game, but that is for our next video. For this video, we are going to be using this software to share screen. I'm going to share with you guys my Instagram. How lovely is that? But also I am going to be sharing certain images to kind of go through the readathons that I was supposed to be participating in because I was participating in quite a few. So we're just going to go through the readathons, and I will share like what I read, what I haven't read, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more in depth my thoughts of the books and their ratings, just to kind of have some sort of structure to this video. So let's get into it, shall we? This is the post for the first readathon that I had mentioned to my Instagram fam. This is for the Readathon Rebellion, hosted by Melanor Reads. I decided I was going to be a Team Heart, and I was going to do the easiest mode that you can do, which is the 4 objectives. Objective 1 was it's going to take the very best to get the Silent Spectre out alive and to stay alive yourself. Gather a team that you trust to help you accomplish this mission. Make sure you choose wisely. Read a book that has 2 or more points of view. So for that, I obviously chose Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, Book 1 by Gregory Maguire. And this book I actually have read, so yay! So now for Objective 2, the storyline continues. Now that you have a team in place, it's time to make a plan. You know the Silent Spectre is in the hands of the ancestors, but you're not sure where she is currently being held. Send out some of your best hearts to be persuasive and gather information. I love that because I am Team Hearts. Hearts on the walls, but no love in these streets. Appetite for destruction. A girl's gotta eat, yeah. Devil on my shoulder and it won't be quiet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you know, you know. Social media scroll. Read the first book you come across on your TBR on your social media of choice. So I literally chose Pinterest. Don't know why. Actually, yeah, I kind of do. I didn't want to go through Instagram because I felt like that was very, very specifically curated. Now, listen, the people that it's specifically curated to have like various and diverse tastes. However, I just feel like when it comes to seasonal things, it's always the same thing. And with Pinterest, because I didn't use it a lot, I felt like I could get more of an unbiased look at things things. And so, I scrolled, and the first thing that I came across, although now that I read the prompt, it was on your TBR. This was not on my radar whatsoever. So I probably should have kept scrolling, but because I did not read, I came up with Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. You can barely read that cover that I put on there, but I did not read this book, unfortunately. Womp, womp, womp. Objective 3, and the story behind that is, you know where she's being held. You now have reliable information on the layout of the dungeon. It's time to go after your leader. Break the Silent Spectre out and bring her home by any means necessary. Be careful. There may be additional challenges along the way. Read a book with an action word in the title. So as you guys can see, I chose Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb, and this was actually a part of my physical TBR, and I did not even get to touch said physical book at all, I believe, this month. So no, I did not read that. Then we have Objective 4. You have arrived at the prison and made it inside. After a few roadblocks and challenges, the Silent Spectre is free from the cell, but can you make it out of the mountain? Read a fast-paced book, open to interpretation. For me, I said 9 Liars by Maureen Johnson because it is a fast-paced read, typically for me to read her books. However, it was also the last book in the series, and therefore I was trying to take my time with it, and I really did take my time. But when I sat down to read it and actively scheduled myself to read it, I sped through. I was just having the time of my life. Still am, by the way, because I have not finished it. So no, I did not complete that prompt. So I kind of failed a little bit miserably, but I had fun, and that's all that matters. And also, Wicked is good. We'll talk. So there was that readathon. Then I also participated very briefly, I guess you could say, in Not So Scary-a-thon. And just to be clear, yes, I did skip over another post. However, I feel like that is the post that we're going to be talking about. Not So Scary-a-thon, 2-week Halloween fall-themed reading party with challenges, giveaways, and more. This was happening the 15th through the 28th, but obviously you can read for it throughout the month as well. The challenges were: 1, Hocus Pocus, read a witchy book. And for that, I decided that I was going to read Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. And as we had already previously stated, yes, I did read that. Then the second prompt was Haunted Mansion, read a book featuring a spooky house. And I kind of stretched the interpretation of this just a tiny bit, but I can explain my reasonings. I chose The Memory Box by Eva Lesko Natieo. I think that's how you pronounce it. And the reason for me picking this book was because I believe that the choice of house that was made could be a factor in the storyline of a psychological telling of what is going on. And I think it was a subconscious element. Again, I'm really stretching it. So a lot of spooky things are going on inside the house. And because of that, it's almost like one of those kind of true crime things where, there are certain locations that are in and of themselves not scary, but because of what happens within them, they can be. This is kind of like my very loose interpretation. I could be totally wrong, to be honest. But, all of these are based off of first impressions, especially when you haven't read the books. So I left myself open to interpretation there. Prompt number 3, we were to read a Nightmare Before Christmas thing. So read a book with a spooky setting. I chose a Stephen King novella, and I did not read that. Oh, I also did not read The Memory Box by Eva Lesko Natieo. I did not read that. I did not read Stephen King's Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Try saying it that 5 times fast. But that is the book that was chosen for spooky setting because Stephen King, the king of horror, if you will. Then for prompt number 4, it was Halloween Town, nostalgic movie. Really should watch that. Read a book featuring a Halloween read. I'm sorry, just read a Halloween read. My goodness. Something Halloween-esque for that. Can't get any more Halloweeny and spooky than an exorcism. The original exorcism, might I add. The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. I did actually read this, and we need to talk. I have thoughts. I have so many thoughts. And then prompt number 5, Monsters Inc. Love that movie. Very nostalgic. Read a monster book. That is open to interpretation as well, which is why I read a monster of a book, or rather, listened to a monster of a book. Don Quixote, a classic, one that I've actually really wanted to read since actually childhood. I don't know if this is a fever dream of mine, but I feel like there was a kind of spin-off. I don't know if it was VeggieTales. I want to say it was like a spin-off VeggieTale Don Quixote. I'm not entirely sure, to be quite honest. I could totally be making this up. But if anyone else has seen VeggieTales and has seen this like just like obscure like Don Quixote type thing that was made, like let me know, because I feel like I may have gone into a fever dream with that. But I know for a fact there was a variation of Don Quixote, but like kid version, that I watched. Pretty sure it's VeggieTales, because you can't really not know if it was VeggieTales or not, but like also I could totally be totally wrong. And I really liked the premise, and I have thoughts. We'll talk about it in a sec. I guess you could say I kind of almost successfully did this readathon because I got 3 out of 5. So do we count that as a success? Yay, nay? Let me know in the comments. The readathon of the hour, the magical readathon hosted by G from Book Roast. And you guys, this has been a time for me because I had a vision in my head. Okay, I kid you not. Okay, let me go back to full size for a second. So, story time. I have had a journey with this readathon. I wanted to do it right, if you will. I wanted to create my character. Then I wanted to go down the novice path, have videos for both. Then I wanted to come into my fall semester as a freshman for the first year that this readathon existed, because I had wanted to participate in the kind of spin-off Harry Potter version of it when she did that. And then for reasons that are totally just like, I get it and totally valid, she switched it into this new thing, just beautiful thing that she really created here. And, you know, I wanted to participate in that for the family, the nostalgia, just the everything, because that was the world that had saved me at the time. Like, that was like the first world that saved me. Then there were other things past that saved me in many different ways, and why I'm still here today. But I wanted to participate in this readathon because it was very similar, and it just seemed like it could be its own great, unique, and amazing thing. And it is, of its own creation, and can be like a new thing to kind of launch a new chapter. And so I wanted to jump into it at the very beginning, but the character that I wanted to create involved a particular element that if I wanted to read through all of the books to create the character and to make a video of it, I had to get a book that featured elven characters or fae. And I just, at the time, I didn't think I would be into that. So I was just like, I'll just put it off until I do. Finally, this year, I came into the romantasy sector, and I got introduced to elven characters and fae in just the most jarring of ways, let me tell you, with the Cruel Prince. But still, I was able to read that book, and I was starting to create the character, create the video, and all of the things, do the novice path, create the TBR, create the videos, and all of the things, and then go into this autumn semester, like completely just like with its own thing. Well, time had its own plans and life had its own plans, and the best laid plans did fail. But not in a way that is bad. Like, I am going to create the character and my time in the world, but I also am going to create it in the way that I hoped to, and not in a rushed timeline of my previous former thinkings. So that'll come out. But I was so excited to participate this month and to really just get involved in this readathon. And I also want to make mention at the top of this, we do get guild points for certain things within the live stream, and we can stock them up. We could spend them. I am going to take 35 of my guild reputation points, and I am going to purchase I forget what it is specifically, but I'm going to purchase a thing that is going to allow me to extend the readathon. And I'm pretty sure there is no time limit on it. I think just like the logical way of thinking of this timeline is prior to the next semester. So for the spring equinox. So I have until then to finish all of these books, and I've pretty much finished quite a fair few, I feel, for a reader like me. So I am very happy about that. And I am also so happy that I got some guild reputation points to be able to purchase this item so that I could like play by the rules. You know what I'm saying? Not that there's any rules to play by, but it is fun to kind of have that element of just like consequences of good or bad, whatever they may be. And so I got enough guild reputation points for that, and all other guild reputation points, I am just going to stockpile them and figure out what I want to do with them later on. Probably save them until the fall semester, just so that I can have those spring equinox items and the new fall equinox items, because there seem to be new items every single semester, as well as like side quest items and things. So, you know, I'm going to just patiently wait and play the long game with that. That's the backstory. Now let's get into the readathon portion of events. So my character is going for Star Whisperer. You know what I'm going to do? Now that I'm looking at this, there's so much to explain. I'm just going to insert a clip of all of the prompts and the books that I chose for them. And then we're just going to go through, and I'm going to say like this subject title and the letter, and then the book. Yes, I read that. No, I did not. The studies that I have to take for this particular part of the semester, I need an O in Art of Illusion, a D in Astronomy, an O in Lore, and a D in Psionics and Divination. I am going to need an O in Lore, Forgotten Tongues, read a translated book, and for that I have decided to read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I need an O for Art of Illusion, Biomanipulation, read a book with an autumnal setting or cover, and for that I chose Nine Liars by Maureen Johnson. Then we have higher levels for these next two subjects. For astronomy, O is Invisible Stars, read a character with an invisible illness. For this, I chose The Memory Box by Eva Lesko Natiello. Then for qualified for astronomy, I need to read Orbital Shift, read a book with a genre you don't often read. For this one, I've decided to put Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. Then I also need a distinguished in astronomy, and that is Meteor Shower, read a book under 250 pages, and Rita Hayworth, I don't know why I want to say Hayworth, and Shawshank Redemption by Stephen King. Then we have Psionics and Divination, Ordinary, with genre spin, and apparently Don Quixote. Then for qualified, Future Sight, read a book with a TV or movie adaptation, Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, Volume 1 by Gregory Maguire. I need to get distinguished, so dream interpretations, read a book that fits a theme from your recent dream, and we don't talk about Bruno, I just put Maybe Later by Claudia Bergoa. Now we're gonna get into the books. For lore, I just needed an O, and for that I chose The Alchemist by, oh my goodness, Paulo Coelho. Me trying to read the tiny print off of the screen is actually quite entertaining. Sorry if I got really, really close and personal there. Didn't mean to. Didn't mean to invade your personal space, y'all. I didn't, truly. So this I did not read. And what I am planning on doing, by the way, is I am planning on using all of the books that I have just like stamped my approval on for this semester. I am going to carry these over into the following months, and we are going to get this done prior to the spring equinox. We are, because I am saying so. So need to read that. That's going to roll over. Art of Illusion, I need to know in that. And for that, I chose Nine Liars. And I am in the middle of reading that, but I did not complete it. For astronomy, I needed an O. And for that, well, actually, I need all three letters, but O for starters. And I chose The Memory Box by Eva Lesko-Natiello. And I am still reading that, so no, I did not finish it. For astronomy, also, I needed to get the letter Q, and for that, I chose Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. As we know, did not read it. For astronomy, it's D. I also needed the letter D. For that, I chose Stephen King, and oh my goodness, Rita Wayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, I'm pretty sure. Y'all, I have very bad memory. Let me just like very quickly go to one of the nope, it wasn't that readathon. One of the readathons that had it. Yes, okay. Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. My goodness, I am blind as a bat, clearly. But no, I did not read that. For psionics and divination, I needed an O. Chose Don Quixote. Did read that. I needed the letter Q for psionics and divination, and for that I chose Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. Can you tell I have really talked about this book? Did not even need to look at the cover's title for that. But I did read that. And then also for psionics and divination, okay, we need to really get up close and personal here. I chose Good Night Nurse. Maybe Later by Claudia. Good gravy. Sorry, I need to like. Here we go. Thank you, Goodreads. Coming in clutch. Yes, Maybe Later by Claudia Bergoa. Good gravy. My goodness. And we're gonna unzoom. My goodness. Okay. And that I did not finish either. So those are all of the books for all of the readathons, all of the things that I read, all of the things that I did not read. So now let's get into the books that I have read, because we have such a good lineup, I swear. It's amazing. So let's just dive in, shall we? I read Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, book 1 in this series. And bro, the way that this is nothing like the play or the movie, the movie literally do be an adaptation of the play. The play, nothing like, but like also everything, like it's so, let me speak in sentences. So we're following the Wicked Witch of the West story, and it's so interesting. We start off in a scene where she is following Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow. And this is going to be tied back in and comes back around later, but that's the first scene that we see. And we see her literally not being able to be in rain. And at first, like, I thought it was just more of a, I don't know. Like, I didn't think it was symbolism. I think it was real. But I thought that there was some sort of something with the water that happened probably later to her in the book. I did not know that she literally could not touch water. And this is like a total aside, but this book had a lot of religious undertones. And so I'm not wondering if that's kind of like in reference to maybe like holy water and saying like maybe there's some sort of demonic thing going on there. I'm not entirely sure because there was a lot of religious talk in this story and also like subversions of different religions. It's very interesting. It's almost like a satirical bent on religion, but like with actual legitimate religious outlooks or perspectives that were like in the past. Some may still be alive today. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not involved in every single aspect of religion. I am a Christian. I do believe that there is a God. I do believe in the Word of God. There are some things though that could potentially be associated with Christianity that is like interestingly cherry picked and where cults come from. So, if I may be so bold. So that's kind of the world that she kind of grew up in. So I'm wondering if the water has any sort of symbolism with that, but like, well, not symbolism because it's real, but like also symbolic because holy water, maybe. I'm not entirely sure because again, I don't know. I don't know other religions like that or subsects of Christianity. I only know what I believe mostly for the majority of my knowledge. I'll get there eventually. I'll get to reading different books and things, but I say that because we open up with that scene, and it's kind of essentially the prologue, if you will, and then we're thrown into her history and how she was born and her parents, and her father was actually a preacher. Okay, did not know that. But yeah, and then her mother was a social elite. So also both from different I guess races, if you will. Is that, yeah, because gender was the same as our worlds, but like races were different. It's very interesting. Like all of the social conversations that could go underneath this here, but essentially we're thrown into the past. I'm sorry, this is all over the place, but that is because honestly my thoughts on this book are all over the place, but they do make sense in my brain. It's just getting the sense in my brain to try and make any modicum of sense to y'all. Just read this book, basically, is all I'm trying to say, because this is such a good book. We get a first view of the Wicked Witch as an older woman and, you know, aversion to rain, watching our main characters from Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz scene. There's a scene there. It has some significance. Now we're in the past to start the story. We get the birth and infanthood, because it's not really childhood. We don't really get that much, but we get infanthood of Elphaba. Then we get thrust into Glinda. We meet her, Galinda, sorry. We meet her, and she's nothing like what you think. Although exactly like what you think, because the description is exactly the same as the plays and the movies, but she's not like that. there is a whole, oh my goodness, let me not get sidetracked. So we meet Glinda. We're now in Shiz. We get such a minimal view of Shiz. Like, I kid you not, in their time there. And also, there are so many more characters than the play involves. And I get it. I understand it. I took a literature to film course, a few of them. And so I know the decisions that kind of go into the making of said things like plays and movies, because they are different mediums, there are different time frames, there are different audience retentions. I get it. And it is so fascinating. But also, I need the Wicked franchise. Can we like ask whoever the director is for the movie? I'm so sorry, I forget his name. Can we ask the director of Wicked to please make a series and follow the book as best as he can? Obviously, it's going to be an adaptation. It's its own thing. It's its own translation. But like, can you follow the book? Because that is so interesting. I see the vision. It's so clear to me how the director got the vision because I see the product, but he didn't have the product. So how did he get that vision? How did we get there? How did he think of that? Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. So we're in Shiz. We see a whole group of characters. We have some time there. Things happen. Spoilery things that I cannot say. And then they're adults. And there is kind of a reunion of sorts, but like not really. It's a very peacified reunion, and we get to see various different characters again, and it's very interesting. And then bam, something happens 10 years later. We are now there. And then I think another 5 or so years or something happens, and then bam, another event, and then boom, we're here, and now we're at Dorothy coming to Oz. And then we get the whole behind the scenes thing of her coming into Oz, everyone's reactions to it. And then we get to her interaction with the witch at the very, very end. And like, all of the pieces kind of go together. I'm sorry, the summary is so disconjointed, but so is the story. But it's like, it's not. It's not written disconjointed. Like, I just like, here's the issue. I am so happy with this experience, not only with the actual reading experience, which was so much more in depth, so much more roller coaster of emotions than I could have ever guessed. I literally went through all the stages of emotions. I kid you not. Like, people often joke, I went through all of the stages of grief in this one particular thing. I went through the entire gambit of every single possible emotion I think exists. Truly. And I was so invested to the point where we had the Wicked movie playing on in the background. My mom and I often, get together for a dinner or whatnot and a movie, and we were in the midst of playing a game, a Hogwarts battle game. And so we're playing, and I keep getting distracted by the movie because I am like so ready to just strangle a character to death. A few of them, actually. And also, I'm just watching for every single little piece because it is so close to the play. I'm watching every single little piece, and I'm just dissecting it and thinking, okay, I see where we got the inspiration from here, where we got the inspiration from here, where we got it from here. Okay, I get it now. And once I finished reading the entire thing, it all kind of came together. I got it. And I understood it, but I don't know how I got there. That's the part that is so confusing to me because I can't explain it. Like, here's the thing. It's like, I sometimes talk with people, and especially like during the reading of the book, they're like, it's nothing like the play. And I was like, I totally agree with you. Well, now that I've read the entire book, if anyone were to come up to me and say, it's nothing like the play, I would have to disagree. Because I understand what happens and how the director got to that decision making. I just want to know how he translated it in that way to make it viable for an entire different audience and really an entire generation. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the OG play and the OG cast kind of molded a generation of people for the theater and theater lovers in that way. And now, like with Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande playing this new cast and this really like phenomenon of a play going into theaters now, it's sparking yet another generation of people and interested viewers as well with an entirely different medium in an entirely different way for a whole new generation. And I'm just like, wow. And then when you go back and you read the book, you can see how that could have inspired a generation of readers. And it's like, this story has inspired multiple generations of people, multiple generations of viewership in different times in different ways. But you could see how you got there with each and every single different thing. It's so fascinating to me. It really is. And I'm just like, I'm so intrigued. I'm so invested. If you couldn't tell, it was a 5-star, by the way. Like, I could go off, and I really do. Like, I just, you know what? Don't be surprised if I be sitting right here wearing this shirt, like talking your ear off about just the different spoilery ways that this book and the theater production then being translated into the movie all can kind of coexist, and it makes sense because it does. It does, like, but you gotta. It's very interesting. It was such a thin line of logic that you can follow that truly, if it in any way diverted from what it became for the play, I can guarantee you it would not have been as impactful. It would have been its own separate thing. It probably would have flopped, probably. Well, I mean, probably not. Like, I mean, hey, you had the OG cast on Broadway. I mean, you had some amazing people. They could have made anything sound good. But what I mean is, for the story itself, it could have totally flopped the storyline, but it didn't. And it, like, very thin line that the director could have followed, and he got it. He got it right in one fell swoop, and I just so good. Not director, a play producer. Yo, I could go up. I want to so bad. It's like, please, someone in the comments, please engage so that we can have a conversation. Spoiler free, of course. Obviously, everything in the comments should be spoiler free. But I have an Instagram. Please DM me. We can chat it up. I really need someone to talk to. Okay, next up, Don Quixote. Woo! I kind of already gave the context of why I was so excited to read this book, but you guys, this book was freaking huge. So glad it was audio. I will say one of my biggest fears with audio is being taken out of the story or having my mind wander as the story is progressing. Now, that sometimes did happen, okay? But that's just the nature of my squirrel brain. However, I will say I enjoyed the narration. I enjoyed the story so much. It was so interesting how this book started. And again, it really kind of took on, and well, this makes sense because it was a satirical work. It took on just very interesting perspectives of satire, though, I must say. And I said this in a video of some kind, or I will be saying it depending on what video it's going to be in, because I no longer have any sense of videos and what times they be uploading other than this video and the next. Everything else is kind of just up in the air at this point, and we're gonna pretend that's okay. Yeah, so I don't know if I've actually said it publicly yet or if I'm going to. But I think, or maybe I said this about another book and I'm just like thinking that this is what I said for this book because it was kind of the same thing. Actually, I think that is what's happening in my brain here. For Don Quixote, I must say, I feel like this was a very, not very, that may be stretching it a little bit. I feel like there was a modern perspective shining through in this book in a very historically based time. To put it nicely, mildly, you know, I think that this book was ahead of its time in a way that is more modern setting. And I don't know if that speaks volumes of how long it took to progress to this level, or if it speaks more volumes of the author that was trying to write this book and try to convey these messages, and quite possibly both. Let me look up right now when Don Quixote was written. Because again, this was an audiobook. I didn't really have it in my hands to be able to know or to see. The internet isn't helping. Oh, interesting. You guys, it's saying 1605. I am now more thoroughly impressed than I thought, and a little bit more slightly terrified at our speed of progression, shall we say. So, this book is following along, of course, Don Quixote and his adventures, and it is actually written from the perspective of, if I am remembering this correctly, the father writing to the world about his sons exploits. However, it also seems as though there were other stories gotten throughout that time from other sources. So take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, the author is the author, but in context of the story, this is what is happening. I'll try to summarize it as best as I can, but essentially, we're following Don Quixote on his mission to become the modern day knight based off of fantasy books, essentially, that he has read. It would be like me trying to become Percy Jackson. Well, he's trying to become a knight, actually a knight errant, if you will, and he has some stuff going on up here the entire time. And it's not stated what is going on. There are certain speculations of what happened to kind of get him into this state. But he believes what he is about, what he is doing. He runs into a guy who he convinces to believe in him and what he's doing. And they go off on adventures, and you meet a bunch of different people. You get a lot of different stories. It's a great and interesting time, and it's actually quite informative of the times that they were in a kind of satirical bent that is definitely more modern day viewed. And I say it's so interesting because it's not necessarily modern day, but back in what was it, 2017, 2018, 2019, when we had that shift in acknowledging mental health, we were kind of pre that. We were kind of like 2010 era. If you know, you know. If you don't, bless your heart. So there was a more modern view, modern in maybe 2014, 2015 era, where people were starting to see that there was something that could go on up here, and acknowledging that there was an up here, and that yes, we could take care of it, and that it's not automatically psycho. However, it was viewed kind of as that, and it may have been hurtful in many ways for the person that was dealing with stuff, because it's not, there's variations, right? There are some things that can be helped and can be worked through, or at the very least can be livable with once you know what's going on. And then there are some things that cannot be. And we are working on eliminating more and more of those cannot be's to, okay, we can at least live with it, acknowledge it, try to understand it a little bit more, etc., etc. It kind of felt like we were really getting into that. And it's interesting that this author wrote this in 1605. And the reason that I bring that up is because it very much felt like a Circe read to me, where I am getting a historical setting. Obviously, it's a classic. It's one of the older classics as well. But with a lot of think PC stuff, a lot of satire, a lot of questioning, a lot of psychology underlying the text, right? And it gives the story substance. And it's not even that the story has to address it directly. It's just it's just there, obviously. And as you're going along, it gets more and more substantive, because the more and more you really are seeing in real time a situation play out that it's real. it's sad. It's hard to watch. It's hard to see happening over and over and over and over and over again. However, it gives you more perspective, more grace, more understanding, and it kind of gives you a right type of anger about what is happening, what is going on, like why is no one doing more? Why is everyone just kind of watching and not saying, watching and not doing, not saving people from themselves? Because obviously there are people that see this and they don't understand, therefore they laugh or mock. They see it, they don't understand, they have sympathy, but they don't speak up. They see it and they kind of know what happened, but they don't know what to do, so therefore they stay quiet. And then the ones that, like, it's weird, but it's not anything to, like, write home about or to acknowledge. It's like an actual issue, it's something I can explain away. There are those types of interactions to this man who believes that he is truly on a mission to become a knight errant or knight and help the world. But in reality, he's not seeing things as they are, not interacting with people in the right way because he sees them as one thing and they're really not that, and they don't know what's going on and they don't understand, or they're misunderstanding him because he is not being very understandable. And I don't know, maybe it's just the fact that, like, I have stuff going on up here that is hard to explain, was hard to talk about, and I kind of lived through how do I say this in a very in a productive way? I kind of lived Encanto, kind of, where it's like there's a generational gap in communication and understanding and social constructs. And also, I called my generation the guinea pig generation, where those of us that were older teens and who were literally being told, find your place in the world, and not knowing our place in the world, and then being thrown into a pandemic 2 years later, but then also being thrown into a world that said, we now acknowledge mental health. Growing up in a world that said, we don't acknowledge it. And now we finally acknowledge it. But now, like, where do we go from here? Because there's a lot that happened that we did not get help for. And now we need to focus on these other things, seemingly. And so, like, what do we value? What do we prioritize? And now we're all messed up, essentially. And then there were those that were fine, and it's great. We love people that can just power through and just, like, have good things. Honestly, though, mental health, I feel like everyone has it in some form of variation, some degree. Some people just know how to handle it better and maybe have their answers and their copes, whether they know it or not. And honestly, that is great. That's amazing. And, stay there, please. And the rest of us that kind of flail and struggle, flail, FLAIL, not fail, flail, or like tread in water, doggy paddling, trying to get help, finding the life preserver, the paddle boat, anything. You're not alone. We're here together. We got this. We got this. We'll find our answers. We'll get our mechanisms. We'll get our tools. We'll be able to live through this life together. We got this. So yes, maybe it's because I come from that space where I'm just like, oh my word. Like, clearly this is happening, but then again, think of the time period. Think of the historical context of this. And that's why classics do be classics. And I think that's why we can learn so much from classics and really appreciate classics for the content that they have and really respect the content that they have for the time period that they're in. But then also acknowledge, like, okay, now we know that, but now we're here. Now we can do this to be better. And I think there's just so much stuff in life and so much nuance that literally so much of what we know is good. But there's always so much more that we don't know, and always so much more that we can get from the past, from the present, from any future thought tracks, right? So, you know, I think that we can glean things and maybe glean more things from the things that we read. So I do believe in rereading for that very reason, because there is something that you can get more out of. I mean, if there's any substance to dig out of it, sometimes there is no substance. Sometimes it's just a fun time with no thought, and we love that too here. Don't get me wrong, but I am definitely a deeper reader, if that makes sense, for the majority of the time. So this book really was such a good read for me, although I will say there were some times where it was just so easy for me to like get out and then be put back in and then be so confused, but then get right back on track because there was a whole other thing that was going on. So I will say, for the sake of that reason, which is not the fault of the book, not the fault of the narrator, not the fault of whatever, just myself, I will say I give it a 4-star. Yeah, because it was really good. The stuff that I do remember, the stuff that made sense, yeah, definitely a 4-star. But oh, did I even really finish my thought? That essentially, like, maybe because I come from that perspective, there is a more modernized look in a satirical bent from the author, and it's very impressive from that time to be able to see in modern day. That's where I was getting with that. Okay, so let me remember all of the books that I read, because I read that, and then I did something. Like, I think I started 9 Liars, but I didn't finish that. The last and final book that I have read, and we can finally round out this video, and all God's people said amen, is The Exorcist. Well, that's ironic. Hey, William Peter Blatty. Wow. Yes, The Exorcist. My goodness, yet another one. And this one was also audio. So, okay, I am very happy with Audible, because I was able to get 2 books in September when I first got it, because I needed to get the textbook for free. So I was able to get the textbook with a credit, and then I was able to listen to Don Quixote for a limited amount of time for free. Otherwise, I would have had to pay for it, but I finished it within the free allotted time. Yay! And then, because it was on the 19th, I believe, that I got all of that stuff together. This month on the 19th, or I'm sorry, not September, August. So that in September, on the 19th, I was able to get The Exorcist. And boy, howdy! Can I just say, the person that narrated this book on Audible, I mean, the way that this narration happened, it was just so good. It was so good, and I own it now. His voice was made for these types of books. I don't think there was ever one singular moment where I was out of this story. Man, okay, so The Exorcist. We are following along this woman and she is in the film industry, and she is trying to vie for this role as a director for a movie, and she gets I was gonna say she gets the role. That's not it. She gets the position. And, she's conversing with people in her field, people who she respects. Well, things start happening in her life, and she has a daughter. And her daughter, sweetest little thing, very cute, very, just like, very girly, has this little girly voice that's gonna come back up in a minute. Very sweet, very kind, very, just, a little girl. Then things happen. Her house sets the stage for a lot of things that are about to go down that not even movies would want to conjure up. And we follow along as little by little there are odd goings on, and her child's behavior slowly but surely devolves, and not in a normal devolving way of like maybe childhood rebellion, maybe some sort of goings on, maybe even mental health wise or physically sick wise, just because there was a separation from the father and she doesn't see her father often and all of these things. So maybe some like excess guilt, some acting out, some anger that maybe was unresolved or they didn't know about, or whatever, myriad of things. It's amazing the mental gymnastics that everyone in this book does when met with demonic activity. There is a demon that takes over, and there is a group of people that has to face the reality of this demon possession and help this little girl to extricate said demon from her soul, from her body, from her. And a lot of things happen. I'm like, there are so many things that happen, but all of them are spoilers. Let's just say there is a lot that occurs, and it does not hold back on anything that sorry. I just remembered a specific scene. Sorry, I remembered some specific scenes, and let's just say I felt them acutely. That one I felt very acutely. That was a little much. Let me get some water. And it's not because I'm crying. It's literally just because I had just such a visceral reaction. Yeah, but there were some things that happened that I was just like, oh, okay, I'm reading this apparently. Okay. And before I could even think about what I was hearing, like the scene itself was over, but the vivid imagery that was conjured was just like, are you kidding? A lot of stuff happens. Like literally, it's interesting because, okay, so like I said, I believe in angels and demons, right? So there is this element of that is very much a realistic element for me, where I'm just like, that's just that, like, for me, that's just an element of like, oh, huh. And it's kind of a sobering thought, because I mean, I don't know the spiritual plane like that. Okay. I don't have answers to that. I don't. Me personally, I don't have anything on that realm. But it's so interesting when I see angels and demons in books and how they are portrayed over time, because like, I mean, when you think about it, there are different variations, and it's just interesting if you're into that type of thing, and seeing the different variations of how things are symbolized or how they are portrayed, and what they are to society in that time and in that way, or specifically to that author in that time in that way. But I mean, one person thinks something, inevitably other people think it too. So it's just so fascinating to get into the psychology of the thing. But then also there's that other element of that's also sobering is that, cults are real. And th- there are some that, you know, do have similar practices. I'm not going to say that everything that was written in this book is like gospel truth. No. But, there are some realistic elements here where I'm just like in the fact of the cults that I'm just like, oh, 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 I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. And it's very, like, again, so much into the psychology aspect, so much substance underneath the text. And this one, though, I expected a little bit more religiosity, not gonna lie. Wicked kind of threw me for a whole other loop, man. I tell you what. And then I kind of expected like a social type of satire, really, but no, like they went for the jugular on a lot of things, political and stuff, in Don Quixote. And I'm just like, well, this is a great month for me, with all of these different books. It's like, okay, can I have Iron Flame, please? It's a good, just like quick, give me all of the sugar and the diabetes and all of the things. Let me forget the more sobering stuff. But honestly, like, I'm eating it up. I'm here. I'm ready for it. I'm in the mood. There's not a lot of good descriptive words for this experience. However, this experience was so good, so substantive, and reflective, and dark in many places, religious undertones. It made you really question some things. And so I was very happy with that. So I will say that I'll just let that be that. I will say it has room in the future, if I think on it a little bit more, to be a 5-star. But see, the thing is, I am so just like I'm so words. I'm looking at the raw footage. I've been talking for a minute 40. An hour 40. I'm looking at the raw footage. I've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes, so words are not coming to me. I am very stringent on 5-star because 5-star in many circles means like perfect, cannot be better. And in a lot of ways, I think that could be true. I also am just very new to the genre, so I'm just being very, very selective with my 5-stars. And I'm just going to put a 4.5 on it and be ready for December for me to say it's a 5-star, because, like, it could be I am just being very selective. So, you guys, that was a lot of talking. So I'll shut up. I'll stop yapping. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I truly needed this, if you could not tell. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to hang out with me and talk about books. I will be linking the readathon that I am in, which is TBR Harvest, in the description box down below, along with other readathons. And I am slowly starting to add other readathons or bingos or challenges or whatever that I find throughout the month and putting them within all of the videos. I have been posting short form content daily in between all of the video uploads. So I hope you guys have been enjoying that, celebrating daily Booktober in some like small little ways in some cases, and then in bigger ways in others with this type of content. But thank you guys so much for sticking it out with me for this video. I know I had a lot to say. I know I had a lot of side quests and I was yapping a lot, but I just really love talking about books, and there was just so much good stuff. And you know what? I'm not going to apologize for yapping about a good reading month, okay? So I hope that this is the same way next month. Thank you guys for watching yet again. And as always, oh wait, first, bookkeeping. I have some social medias also linked in the description box down below. That's going to be my Bookstagram, my Instagram, my TikTok that doubles as a book talk as well, but just it's the one singular account, my Lemonade account, my Vocal account, and of course my lifestyle channel. So if you guys would like to see me on any of those platforms outside of here, then feel free to follow those. Now, as always, thank you guys so much for being the absolute best bookish bestie that ever was, is, or ever will be. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye!